What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review. And today we're taking a look at the brand new Mafex comic book, Invincible Iron Man. And I'm always excited to talk about Mafex comic book based figures because, in my opinion, they're like the kings of figures based on Marvel and DC comics. They've been killing it every single time, so I'm very excited about this Iron Man figure. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Starting off with the packaging. Through the window, you are able to see Tony Stark along with the accessories and the big-ass proton cannon that he comes with. Down here, we get a look at the figure. Over here, it does say the Invincible Iron Man, Marvel Mafex, all that good stuff. And then we do have this artwork on the side here that kind of looks like a comic book. I love that so much. On the side of the box, we get a look at the figure. Looking pretty badass right there. On the back, we get a look at the figure doing all kinds of stuff, showing off the accessories, showing off different poses he could do. On this side, we get a look at Iron Man flying, and that is looking nice too. And that's about it for the packaging. It is collector friendly and all that good stuff, but enough about the pretty looking box. Let's go ahead and get Iron Man out and take a look. All right, so here we have Iron Man right out of the box. And man, I've got to say, when Mafex is clear of any quality control issues, they're like the most satisfying action figure company out there. They do such a good job on comic book figures. They give us these awesome, well-executed, classic-looking comic book characters, and they're pretty much perfect. Like, Iron Man is pretty damn close to perfect. This dude came out amazing. And you know, the only real flaw that I see on this guy is kind of like an engineering kind of situation, or like an engineering choice that they made that I feel could have been just a little bit different. But aside from that one thing, which I'll explain to you in just a second, this figure is pretty much perfect. Like, it's a perfect looking Iron Man figure. This guy came out amazing. The articulation is ridiculous. The sculpt is very well done. And yeah, man, I'm just loving this figure. Right out of the box, I was instantly in love with this figure. And the one issue that I was talking about is, you know, it's not really a big issue, but it's something that could happen. So check it out. So he's got these big shoulder joints, right? And they kind of come out like this, which is cool because it allows for articulation and stuff like that. But the housing where the ball joint pops into is a little too big. So if you push his shoulders all the way back, it pushes on the lower neck and kind of pops it off of the ball joint in there. Now, you don't need to push it all the way back in order to have his shoulders sit naturally, you know, just like that is perfectly fine. But if you take both of the shoulders and push them in at the same time, then it's going to pop that neck off. Like, to me, that's not like a huge issue. It just seems like an engineering oversight or something. Like, they should have probably made this a little bit smaller. Like the housing for the shoulder joint, they should have made it a little bit smaller, but they probably kept it so big so it didn't create any gaps when you're moving the figure. So, you know, maybe they just kind of chose the lesser of two evils, which I completely understand. And like I said, it's not really a big deal. It's just something that can happen, you know, when you're messing with the figure. There's really no reason to push the shoulders back that far. But honestly, aside from that, I think this is pretty much a perfect Iron Man figure. And even that one thing, I don't even know if I'd consider it like a flaw. It's just something that's kind of there. You know, it's not like a big deal, but I could see people kind of complaining about it. You know how it goes. But yeah, aside from that, this is an amazing figure. I love the way that the armor looks. It kind of has a shine to it. It's not really like a metallic look, but it just has like a slight shine, a shiny kind of quality to it. And it really reminds me of classic Avengers comics, because, you know, back in the day, you'd have Iron Man hanging out with a bunch of Avengers, and he'd kind of stand out because his armor would have like a bit of a shine to it. And I think this figure represents that very well. But yeah, man, this thing is amazing. Once again, Mafex absolutely killed it, and just coming through, giving us that definitive version of a classic Iron Man. And as usual, Mafex did a great job with the sculpt, the detail, and the design on this figure. Obviously, this version of Iron Man does kind of have like a simple look, but I love it. I love this old school, classic, basic kind of design for Iron Man. There's not a whole lot going on, but Mafex did a great job of bringing this classic look to life. Even though there's not a whole lot of texture and there's not a whole lot of layers to the design, you know, it's pretty smooth for the most part. But Mafex did a great job sculpting it. Starting off at the head, I love the way that we could see the eyes through the faceplate. And there is an option to have black eyes as well, and I'll show that off in a minute here. But I really like the way it looks with the eyes peering through the faceplate. I think that is super dope. And I don't think we've seen this on a classic Iron Man figure yet. So I love that they included this. And look how awesome that looks, man. Damn. And the eyes are really well done. They're very clean and they look good. And, you know, obviously the face doesn't have a whole lot going on. You could kind of see the cheekbone piece there, but the front of the face is flat. The mouth is black. We've got these things on the ears here that look good. But yeah, the head sculpt is great. It's simple, but I love it. And it's perfect for that classic version of Iron Man. Moving down into the body, we do have this collar piece that looks good, but it does kind of get in the way of the head articulation a little bit, but it does look nice. We have these rings around the shoulders, the arc reactor in the middle of the chest, and then everything else is pretty smooth. Like I mentioned before, there's kind of a shine to this figure, and it's really apparent here with all this glare from my lights. Look at that. That all looks really nice. There's a little bit of wash in the details here, like on the arms and this area, and on the legs as well, but we'll take a look at that in a second. But yeah, this all looks really good. Look at all that shine. That's funny. Yeah, so, you know, like I said, this Iron Man has a very simple design, so there's not a whole lot of stuff. There's not a whole lot of stuff to be like, oh, look at this crazy detail. But they did everything they had to do, and in my opinion, the figure looks pretty much perfect. There's nothing that I wish was different or anything. I think, yeah, I think as far as capturing that old school classic Iron Man that so many of us love, I think this figure does a great job at it. And Iron Man does come with a lot of really good accessories, including a bunch of different sets of hands. So let's start off with those. First off, we have a pair of fists, and then we have a set of open relaxed hands. We have a set of open dramatic hands, and then we have a pair of flat hands. We have a set of open hands that look like they're ready to shoot out a blast. And then we have another pair of hands that are very similar to that previous set of open hands, but these ones have a peg in the center so you could plug on the blast effect that he comes with. And then he does come with a set of gripping hands that could be used to hold on to the grip on the proton cannon. And then he does come with 2 sets of feet. The first pair of feet are just regular Iron Man feet, nothing special about them. And the second pair of feet have some roller skates. And I think this is a very fun and old school, goofy kind of accessory to include, so I like that a lot. And then he does come with 2 different face plates. We have this one here. It's like the flat looking classic Iron Man face. And then you could swap that off and put on another Iron Man faceplate that kind of has like some facial features. You could see like the nose a little bit. So that's awesome. And then he does have like this feature where you could pop out the eyes and replace it with a black piece of plastic so that you can have him displayed with the eyes coming out through the face mask, or black like inside of the face mask of the eyes and stuff. And I think that's awesome. That's a very cool little feature. So you have 2 face plates, but you have 4 different display options. And the interchangeable eye feature is pretty simple and straightforward. All you have to do is remove the face plate. And as you can see, we have his creepy eyes embedded in the head there. And you just have to remove those. And the first time you try to remove these, it's like really, really tight. But after doing it a few times, then, you know, it's not so tight anymore. And then you just take the other black piece and you stick it in there. And as you can see, it fits right into the grooves. And then you just take one of the face plates, put it on there, and then bam, look at that. I love it with the blacked out eyes. That looks really, really good. This is a very cool feature. The only thing I think he's missing in the accessory department is a faceplate or a helmet that had the horns. I think that would have been awesome if he included that as well. But I do like what we have going on here. I like having the different options, and I like the way it's executed. It's very simple and easy. And then he does come with the blast effects that we mentioned earlier, and then he also has some effects that you could plug into the bottom of the feet if you want to get him into flying poses. And I like the way the blast off effects plug into the feet. It actually plugs into the foot like from 2 points. So the bottom of the foot and then the toe area. And I like how the effect covers the entire foot and makes it look like the blast is coming out from there, not just like 1 point in the foot, you know. So yeah, this looks good. And then he also comes with this really good looking Tony Stark head sculpt. We've got the 70s mustache going, which is awesome. And this head sculpt has a very old school kind of feel that is very accurate to how Tony Stark looked when he had this armor. So yeah, this is great, man. The mustache looks good. The face itself looks good. Everything is very well painted. The hair looks nice. We could see that the hair is black with some blue shading to bring out some of the detail. And yeah, that looks really nice. This is a great head sculpt, man. They killed it right here. I do feel like the skin tone is a little pale, just a little bit. But I think for the most part, this is a great looking head sculpt. I do wish that he came with an additional Tony Stark head that had like stubble and like the black around the eyes and stuff, just to kind of give him that Demon in the Bottle era look. You know, that crazy alcoholic that Tony Stark was back in the day. It'd be cool to like be able to portray that with an action figure. I don't think we've gotten a head sculpt like that, but a head sculpt that looked like this with those details would have been perfect. But yeah, I really like this head sculpt quite a bit, and they did a good job with it, so I'm happy they included it. And then last but not least, he does come with this proton cannon, and I do think this looks pretty cool and everything, but you know, I don't really like it too much because it doesn't really go with this version of Iron Man. And on top of that, it's just kind of a hassle to get him to hold on to it in any type of way that makes sense. Obviously, it's too heavy for him just to hold on his own, so it did come with like this extra stand support kind of thing, but it's weak. Like basically, the proton cannon just kind of rests on these two plates, and then there's a piece on the back that like plugs in, but it doesn't even really plug in also that securely. It just kind of goes in there and rests in there. So yeah, you could get him to hold it, and it does look kind of cool like that if you want to display him like this, but I don't see why you would, because you know, this cannon doesn't really go with this version of Iron Man. It would be pretty cool to use this as a prop in the background or something, so you know, I see the value from that aspect. But as far as like an accessory for this specific version of Iron Man, I could have done without it. And I really wish that the stand that it came with was a little less complicated and made a little bit more sense. Like I wish there was just like pieces that kind of plugged right into it or something. That would have been easier. And he can hold it with no problem. Well, I mean, he can't really support it, but he's able to grip onto it. There's some pieces in here that like come apart. I guess I'll go ahead and just show you that, even though it's going to get a little crazy. So actually, this piece comes off first. So you could remove that. And then you could remove this whole piece, and one of the gripping hands just kind of slides onto the grip in there. And then, you know, it all plugs back in together. But yeah, like I said, it's really hard to get him to hold on to it in any kind of natural, cool looking way. And then these support stands are just kind of, they're kind of weak in my opinion. So although I do think the proton cannon is very cool, in this case, I would have preferred the figure to be a little bit cheaper and for them to leave this out and maybe include it with the, if Mafex ever gets around to making like the modular Iron Man, put it in there with that version and give it a stand that makes more sense, you know, that's less clunky and more easy to deal with and just kind of, you know, not like a pain. Like it took me forever to get this damn thing to balance on here, and it just wasn't supported. So yeah, they could have done better with this whole setup. And then now for some size comparisons. Here we have the Mafex Classic Iron Man alongside the Marvel Legends AI Iron Man, which, you know, is basically a classic Iron Man. On the opposite side, we have the Medicom 112 Collective Classic Comic Inspired Iron Man. That's how I would kind of describe that one. But yeah, all three of these figures are amazing, first off. But I would like to do some type of comparison with these three guys, because I think there's an interesting conversation to be had when talking about how these figures compare to each other. And, you know, there's some good stuff going on here. But honestly, you really can't go wrong with any one of these Iron Man figures. They kind of each represent something a little bit different from the other, but they're all really great figures. And then next up, we have Iron Man alongside the Marvel Legends Deluxe War Machine. And I think those two figures look absolutely incredible together, especially because the War Machine figure is kind of big compared to this Iron Man. And I think it works perfectly for these two characters. They look awesome. On the opposite side, we have the Marvel Legends Modular Iron Man. I love that figure. I can't wait to get the Marvel Legends exclusive version with the brighter colors. That's going to be amazing. And that's the version of Iron Man that should come with that big cannon that we saw with this classic version. So it would be cool if Mafex did the modular Iron Man, and I don't know, maybe gave him a cannon. I guess they wouldn't have to. They could probably keep the cost down, and you know, for the people that already have the classic Iron Man that came with the cannon, they could use that cannon for the modular Iron Man. But then that's kind of unfair for the people that didn't want to buy the classic Iron Man, so I don't know how they could do it. In any case, I would love to see Mafex do a modular Iron Man. I think they could do a great job with it. And then here we have Iron Man alongside some of my favorite Mafex comic book figures. On the left, we have the brown suit Wolverine. On the right, we have Gambit. Both of these are amazing. And then here we have them alongside some more of my favorite Mafex comic book figures. On the left, we have the classic Spider-Man, and on the right we have the Dark Knight Returns Superman. I recently did a video for Superman, so be sure to check that out. And then I have a bunch of videos talking about the Mafex Spider-Man on my channel. Be sure to check all that good shit out. And then of course here he is alongside the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap and Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man. And then to get him in here with some classic Avengers, here we have Iron Man alongside the Marvel Legends Retro Card Vision and the Marvel Legends Black Panther from the Atuma movie Build-A-Figure wave. And man, how dope would it be to get a Mafex Vision or Black Panther? I think they would do an incredible job on both of these characters. And man, honestly, I would just love to see a whole bunch of comic book characters from Mafex. I know it's tough because, you know, it would take them 10 years to get us like a whole Avengers team. And then finally, here we have Iron Man alongside the Marvel Legends 20th anniversary of Marvel Legends Captain America and the Marvel Legends 80th anniversary Thor, but with a custom cape from Harker Customs. And I think this Iron Man figure looks pretty damn good next to these Legends, but he is a little bit on the small side. I still think it works, but obviously, he's probably going to scale much better with the Mafex versions of these characters, which I cannot wait for. And Iron Man does have some really great articulation, but obviously that's no surprise because Mafex is one of the best in the game when it comes to articulation. They always do a great job, and Iron Man is no different. So we've got a lot of good stuff going on, but let's go ahead and start off by taking a look at the head and the neck area. So he does have movement at the upper neck and at the lower neck, so using both of those, we get some really nice tilt. Can move his head in all kinds of different directions, so that's nice. Then he can look left to right, and then he can only look down to about right there. It is a little restricted looking up and down because he has like a collar piece around the lower neck, so you're only going to get him to look down to about right there, which, you know, it's not great or anything. And then he could look up to about right there, which I definitely wish he was able to look up a little bit more. But, you know, just like Superman, if you need some help getting him into like awesome flight poses, you could compensate for the lack of movement at the neck using the waist joint and the diaphragm joint. So flight poses are definitely achievable with Iron Man, but I do wish that he was able to get a little bit more movement from the head and the neck area, at least looking up, you know. But like I said, flight poses are achievable, so I'm happy with it. And then he does have the awesome standard Mafex torso setup where we have a ball joint at the diaphragm and a ball joint at the waist. Using both of those, check this out. He has an awesome ab crunch. Boom! Look at that. Definitely more than enough for Iron Man. And then you could get him to lean back. Whoa, a crazy amount. And then we get some side to side. Damn, that ball joint at the waist is really awesome. That's where we're getting most of the movement, from the waist, and then the diaphragm cut is just kind of coming through with some backup. So that's nice. And then you are able to swivel at the waist, and you can also swivel at the diaphragm, but not all the way around because of the shape of the torso. But using both the diaphragm and the waist, you could definitely get him into some movements that require his upper body to go to the side a little bit. But yeah, look at that. I really love the torso setup on Mafex figures. I think I say that on every single Mafex review, huh? Just in case you don't know, I do love the torso setup on Mafex figures. It allows for really dynamic poses compared to like an ab crunch or something, you know? So yeah, good stuff there. And then for the arms, let me get them situated before moving on here. For the arms, he does have a ball joint that does go all the way around. And his arms could come up to the side to about right there. And the shoulder joint is able to shift around a little bit on the ball joint that goes into that housing that we discussed earlier. Oops. There we go. So his arms go up to the side a pretty good amount. And then he does have like this butterfly type of joint. And it's kind of reminiscent to like the old Toy Biz Marvel Legends Iron Man from like Series 1. It's kind of like similar in design, but obviously this is much more clean and streamlined and stuff, but same kind of idea. But yeah, you can bring his arm out a really nice amount to get like his arm in front of him for, you know, punching poses and stuff. It's not a very good one. Let's see if we get a better one going. Maybe with this side. Using like his arm and his torso joint to get into some nice like punching poses. There we go. That'll work. You can't move it back though because the hinge is on the front side of it, so that's how it's able to come forward like that. And obviously it can get a little crazy looking back here, so you have to kind of maneuver it to get it into a like a workable kind of pose for you. But yeah, look at that. Oh man, that'll work. And I don't think the shoulder joint looks that crazy, especially if you like take a shot of it like from right there, it looks fine. But yeah, you could definitely get him into some great punching poses. Look at that, damn. Yeah, so that's awesome. Like this ring around the shoulder here definitely seems like it creates problems for the shoulder joints and the articulation around here. But I think Mafex did a good job at figuring out a way to work around it. And I think it worked out pretty good. You just kind of have to be mindful of how you're positioning this situation so you don't see this big shoulder joint, you know. But yeah, good stuff at the shoulders. And then he does have upper bicep swivel. Here we go. Of course, he's got double jointed elbows, which get a good bend. Boom, there we go. Wait, there. Obviously, the forearm armor piece kind of gets in the way. It collides with the bicep, but still pretty good range. And then he does have a ball joint at the wrist with the hinge in it, so you can hinge up and down, swivel around on the hand itself, or swivel the ball joint inside of the forearm. And let's see what else we have going on here. So yeah, the upper body has some really great articulation. The only setback is the head. I do wish the head was able to move a little bit more. And then for the legs, so he does have drop down hips, as you could see. Those come right down with no problem, and he's able to kick forward a really good amount. Look at that. Damn. I don't know if I've ever seen Iron Man have to kick that high. But it's cool that he could do it. And then you could bring his leg out to the side to about right there. And then these discs do just kind of shift out of the way. The drop down situation here is a little loose, so as you could see, it's been falling on me. Not crazy loose, like you could position it and it'll stay, but if you hit it or something, it's gonna fall. But it's not so loose that it's uncomfortable or anything like that, so you know, it is what it is. But like this side is much tighter. But yeah, he could kick to the side a really good amount. There we go. Took a little maneuvering, but yeah, there we go. That works. And then he does have an upper thigh swivel that swivels on the ball joint. There's no thigh cut or anything. Perfectly executed, in my opinion, because we don't see any type of joint or anything, but it still gets a lot of really great movement. Look at that. That is awesome stuff, man. I love it. And then on this side, on both legs, he has double jointed knees, don't worry. So yeah, he's got double jointed knees. No lower leg swivel, but he has a swivel at the ball joint at the ankle. And his foot goes forward to right there, comes up to right there. Has some rocking action, and then some toe articulation. So yeah, hell yeah. This Iron Man figure has some amazing articulation. Honestly, the only one setback is the neck. I mean, the head and the neck. I wish he was able to look up just a little bit more so we could get him into those awesome flight poses without having to use the torso and the ball joint at the waist to compensate the lack of movement at the neck. So that's one thing I wish was a little bit better. I don't really know how they could have done it because of the design, though. So, you know, maybe that's just how it had to be. But yeah, the figure feels really good. All the joints are pretty tight for the most part. As you could see, the drop down hip on this side was a little loose, but not so loose that it just kind of falls all over the place. But if you're rough with it, it'll definitely fall down on you. But aside from that, all the joints feel very, very good. No problems with this guy at all when it comes to the joints. Nothing like popping out excessively, nothing flopping around, nothing so tight that it feels like it's going to break. The figure just feels really, really good in hand, and he's got some really amazing articulation. So yeah, this figure has been a joy to handle, and he's a whole lot of fun to mess around with. You could get him into some great poses, and this thing is just awesome. So I'm very happy with the articulation and the fun factor on this guy. Alrighty, so overall, at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, the dust settles, and it's all said and done, I'm very happy with this figure. I think that Mafex once again did an incredible job. They're straight up killing it with the comic book stuff. That's no secret at this point, and I'm a big fan of all the comic book stuff that they've been doing lately. I've been pretty much satisfied with all of them except for a couple, but Iron Man is definitely up there with some of the best that they've done. Like I said, I'm very happy with the way this guy turned out. He looks amazing. I love the sculpting work, the shine to the armor, that old school classic Marvel comic feel is encapsulated in this figure, and I absolutely love it. The articulation is amazing, especially for an Iron Man figure. You could do more with him than you can with a lot of other Iron Man figures out there. All the joints feel very smooth and easy to move around. He's a joy to handle, and he's a whole lot of fun to play with. There are a couple of loose joints that I wish were a little bit tighter, that being the lower neck and the drop down hip right here. It's not so loose that it's like driving me crazy or anything, but they're a little bit looser than I would like. I do wish they were tightened up just a little bit. And aside from that, this figure is an absolute joy to play around with. I'm having a whole bunch of fun with it. And then the accessories are amazing too. I love all the stuff that came with him that is intended for this version of Iron Man. Like, you know, the unmasked Tony Stark head, the different interchangeable face plates with the option to have the eyes or like the blacked out eyes. I think that is awesome. And then I really love the roller skates. It's like a small little goofy thing to throw in there. Very specific to this version of Iron Man, and it's a lot of fun. The proton cannon is very cool too, although I wish they would have left it out from this version of Iron Man and then maybe knocked a few dollars off of the cost and saved that proton cannon to put out with modular Iron Man, because that's the version of Iron Man that's supposed to get that cannon. I know that Mafex hasn't announced that they're doing that version of Iron Man, but I think it would be cool if they did, and that proton cannon would be more appropriate to go with that version. But you know, it's cool that they threw it in here. I'm never gonna cry about extra accessories. As far as all the stuff that came with this Iron Man that was intended for this Iron Man, I love it all. I think all the different hands are awesome. I love the unmasked Tony Stark head. I love all the energy effects. All that stuff is amazing. So yeah, in every category, Mafex did an incredible job, and overall, they killed it on this figure. He looks amazing, he's fun to play with, and he has great accessories. What more can you ask for, you know? And you know, this Mafex Iron Man is pretty expensive, but thankfully there are some other options out there for classic Iron Man. Marvel Legends has made some really great ones, so you could always go with those. But in my opinion, this is definitely one of the best classic Iron Man figures that's available. And I look forward to talking a little bit more in depth about how this guy compares to the Marvel Legends and Mezco, and just doing a video on that topic to discuss the pros and cons of each figure, because I really do think that each one of them brings something unique to the table, and it's nice to have options because this way there's something for everybody. But yeah, this figure is absolutely incredible. Like I said, he's almost perfect. There's just a couple of small issues that really aren't necessarily huge problems or anything. But, you know, when you call something close to perfect, you have to call out even the littlest kind of imperfection. And I think with the shoulder thing, it could have been done just a little bit better. But as it is, this is an amazing figure, and I'm so happy to have it. And I look forward to getting some more Mafex comic book figures. Hopefully they never stop. Even if it takes them a long time to get things out, I just hope they keep on with it because they're absolutely killing it. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Also, be sure to hit the bell notification so you know every time that I go live. If you're not aware, I do go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and every Friday at 7 p.m. So come through. Let's talk about toys and get weird. Thank you very much. Peace.